Every day, we use countless products without ever stopping to think about where they truly come from. The cooking oil in our kitchens, the soap in our bathrooms, the cosmetics on store shelves. All of them have a story hidden deep inside powerful factories and massive production lines. Behind every product is a complex process most people never get to see. Massive machines, intense heat, skilled workers, and carefully controlled systems work together to transform raw natural materials into the everyday products used by billions of people around the world. And one of the most important of these hidden industries is palm oil production. From small palm fruits harvested in tropical plantations to the golden oil used in food, cosmetics, and many other products, the journey is far more fascinating than most people imagine. Today, we are going behind the product to uncover what really happens inside a modern palm oil factory. Before we continue, a quick disclaimer. This video is created for educational and informational purposes only. The processes shown are based on common industrial practices used in modern palm oil factories, and details may vary depending on the technology, company, or location. The purpose of this video is simply to help viewers better understand the production process behind everyday products. And if you enjoy discovering what really happens behind the products we use every day, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. Long before the first light of sunrise touches the endless rows of oil palm trees, the factory is already awake. In the darkness of early morning, powerful boilers begin to rumble deep inside the massive industrial complex. Thick steel pipes vibrate gently as steam slowly starts moving through the system. Conveyor belts sit quietly for now, but control panels glow softly as operators begin preparing for another long day of production. Outside the factory gates, the plantation is calm. A cool mist floats above the ground, and the silhouettes of thousands of palm trees stretch toward the dark sky. But within a short time, the quiet will disappear. Because when the harvest arrives, the factory must move fast. Palm oil production is an industry built on timing. Once the fruit is harvested, the clock begins ticking. The longer the fruit sits without processing, the more its natural enzymes begin to break down the oil inside. That is why modern palm oil factories operate like living machines. Every section is connected. Every movement must happen in sequence. And every day begins the same way. With trucks. Soon the first trucks appear on the dusty plantation road leading toward the factory. Their headlights cut through the early morning fog as they slowly approach the entrance gate. Each truck carries a heavy load of fresh palm fruit bunches harvested just hours earlier. The fruit bunches are large and striking in appearance. Each one is packed with hundreds of small oval fruits, tightly clustered together like bright orange-red beads. When fully ripe, the fruits shine under the light, their skins glowing with a rich color that signals high oil content. Some of these bunches weigh more than 20 kilograms each. By the time a single truck arrives at the factory, it may be carrying several tons of fruit. As the vehicles approach the gate, security workers signal them forward. One by one, the trucks roll into the receiving area where the first stage of the industrial process begins. When the truck is correctly aligned above the bay, the driver activates the hydraulic system. Slowly, the truck bed begins to rise. For a moment, the fruit bunches remain still. Then gravity takes over. With a deep rolling sound, hundreds of heavy bunches slide down the metal surface and crash into the receiving bay below. The noise is powerful. It echoes across the loading area as more trucks arrive and repeat the same process. Within minutes, enormous piles of fresh fruit begin forming. The air becomes filled with a mixture of smells. Fresh palm fruit, warm engine exhaust, and faint steam drifting from the main factory buildings nearby. But the fruit will not remain here long. Speed is critical. Large mechanical grabbers begin lifting the fruit bunches from the bay and placing them onto conveyor systems. The conveyors move slowly but continuously, carrying the harvest deeper into the factory. Watching the process, it almost feels like the factory is breathing. Fruit enters from one end. Oil eventually emerges from the other. And everything in between is part of a carefully designed system built to handle massive volumes of production. As the fruit moves along the conveyor, it approaches one of the most important sections of the entire facility, the sterilization station. From a distance, the sterilizers look like giant steel cylinders lined up side by side. Thick pipes connect them to powerful boilers located elsewhere in the factory. These chambers are built to withstand intense pressure and extreme heat. because inside them, the fruit will experience the first major transformation. Workers load the fruit bunches into large metal cages mounted on rail tracks. Each cage can hold a significant quantity of fruit, and once filled, it is slowly pushed into the sterilizer chamber. The heavy door closes with a deep metallic sound. Then the process begins. Deep within the factory, massive boilers roar to life. These boilers burn fiber and shells produced earlier in the process, turning waste materials into energy. Water inside the boilers heats rapidly until it becomes high-pressure steam. That steam now travels through thick pipes toward the sterilizer chambers. Inside the sealed chamber, the steam begins filling every space around the fruit bunches. Temperatures rise quickly. Soon the interior becomes an environment of intense heat and moisture. For nearly an hour, the fruit remains inside this powerful steam bath. This stage may look simple, but it performs several crucial functions. First, the heat stops the natural enzymes inside the fruit that would otherwise break down the oil and reduce its quality. Second, the steam softens the fruit pulp, making it easier to release oil later in the process. And third, it loosens the individual fruits from the tough bunch structure. Outside the chamber, workers monitor pressure gauges and temperature displays carefully. Safety valves release small bursts of steam from time to time, creating a constant hissing sound throughout the sterilization area. The air is warm and humid. Even experienced workers can feel the heat pressing against their skin as they move through the room. But they know exactly how this system behaves. Many of them have spent years inside factories like this. They can recognize the rhythm of the machines the same way a musician recognizes the rhythm of a song. When the sterilization cycle is complete, the pressure inside the chamber slowly decreases. Finally, the heavy steel door begins to open. A massive cloud of steam rushes outward, rolling across the floor and briefly filling the room with thick white fog. Inside, the fruit bunches look different now. They are darker, softer, and ready for the next step of the industrial journey. The metal cage slowly slides out of the chamber and moves toward the threshing section. This is where the fruits will finally separate from the bunch. Waiting ahead is a huge rotating drum made of heavy steel. The sterilized bunches are tipped into the drum as it begins to spin. Inside, the bunches tumble again and again as the drum rotates. The movement shakes them violently, causing the individual fruits to loosen and fall away. Soon, hundreds of small fruits begin dropping through openings in the drum onto conveyor belts below. The empty bunch skeletons remain inside for a few more rotations before eventually being pushed out at the far end. The separated fruits now move deeper into the factory. But the empty bunches are not wasted. In many modern factories, they are collected and later used as organic fertilizer in the plantation fields. Some facilities also process them as biomass fuel to help power boilers. This recycling of materials is one reason why palm oil factories are often described as highly efficient industrial systems. Very little of the fruit actually goes to waste. Meanwhile, the loose palm fruits continue traveling along conveyor belts toward the digestion section. This is where the fruits will begin breaking down into the thick pulp needed for oil extraction. The digestion room is filled with tall cylindrical tanks fitted with large rotating shafts. Inside each tank are strong steel blades designed to crush and stir the fruit. As the fruits enter the digesters, heat is applied again. The machines begin turning slowly. The blades push through the fruit mass, crushing the outer skin and soft pulp. The fruits gradually break apart. Their bright color mixes into a thick, oily mash. The sound inside the digestion room is deep and mechanical. Large motors power the rotating shafts, creating a steady industrial hum that never completely stops. Workers monitor the process from control panels nearby, checking temperature readings and machine speeds. Because every stage must operate at the correct conditions. Too little heat, and the pulp will not release oil properly. Too much heat, and the oil quality could suffer. The balance must be perfect. As the fruit pulp continues to break down, something important begins happening inside the mash. Tiny oil droplets start separating from the pulp cells. It is a small but critical step in the transformation from fruit to oil. And soon, the process will move to the stage where that oil is finally forced out under enormous pressure. The stage where the real extraction begins. But that part of the story is only just beginning. Because deeper inside the factory, the most powerful machines of the entire operation are waiting. And when the digested fruit finally reaches them, the industry's true strength will reveal itself. Inside the digestion room, the thick mash of crushed palm fruits continues to move slowly through the heavy steel machines. The rotating blades inside the digesters keep turning, pushing and mixing the heated fruit pulp until it becomes soft, oily, and ready for the next stage. Workers nearby watch gauges and listen to the deep mechanical hum of the motors. In a factory like this, the machines rarely stop. The sound of turning shafts, moving conveyors, and vibrating steel structures becomes part of the environment. For those who work here every day, the rhythm of the machines is almost like a language. They can tell when something is running perfectly, and they can also tell when something is wrong, because every stage of palm oil production depends on precision. Once the fruit pulp inside the digesters has reached the correct texture and temperature, the thick mash is slowly pushed toward one of the most powerful pieces of equipment in the entire factory: the screw press. This machine is where the real extraction begins. From the outside, the screw press looks like a long horizontal metal cylinder connected to large motors and gear systems. But inside it is a carefully engineered mechanism designed to apply tremendous pressure. The digested fruit mash is fed into one end of the machine. Inside the press, a large rotating screw begins pushing the mash forward through a narrowing chamber. As the space becomes smaller, the pressure increases dramatically. The pulp is squeezed harder and harder as it moves through the machine. At first, the mash simply compresses. Then slowly, something begins to happen. Tiny droplets of oil begin to appear between the crushed fibers. The pressure continues to increase. Suddenly, thick streams of reddish oil begin flowing out through small perforations in the press chamber walls. The oil pours into metal channels below, forming warm streams that flow steadily toward collection tanks. For many workers in the factory, this moment still carries a certain sense of satisfaction. After the long journey from the plantation, harvesting, transporting, sterilizing, threshing, and digesting, the oil finally reveals itself. This oil is called crude palm oil. It is thick, warm, and deeply colored, almost glowing under the factory lights. But the screw press does more than just release oil. Inside the machine, the remaining material forms what is known as press cake. This press cake is a dense mixture of palm fiber and palm nuts that still holds value for other processes within the factory. The screw press pushes this solid mass out through a discharge opening at the far end of the machine. From here, the press cake moves along a separate conveyor line to another important section of the facility. But for now, the focus remains on the flowing oil. The crude palm oil leaving the press is far from pure. It still contains water, fine fruit fibers, and small impurities that must be removed before the oil can be stored or transported. That is why the next stage of the factory process is known as clarification. The freshly pressed oil flows into large settling tanks located in another part of the processing hall. These tanks are designed to separate the oil from unwanted materials using heat and gravity. Inside the tanks, the mixture is gently heated. Heat reduces the viscosity of the oil, allowing heavier particles to sink to the bottom while the lighter oil rises toward the top. Over time, layers begin forming inside the tank. At the bottom sits a thick mixture of water and heavy solids. Above it floats the valuable palm oil. Workers monitor the tanks carefully, checking temperature levels and flow rates to ensure proper separation. In modern factories, the process does not rely on gravity alone. Many facilities also use centrifuge machines to speed up separation. These machines spin the oil mixture at extremely high speeds. The centrifugal force pushes heavier water and solids outward while the lighter oil collects separately. The result is a cleaner product in a much shorter time. Watching a centrifuge machine in operation is impressive. The steel drum spins so fast that it becomes a blur, while internal forces separate liquids with remarkable precision. Slowly, the oil emerging from this stage becomes clearer and purer. The deep reddish color remains, but most of the impurities are gone. What remains now is true crude palm oil ready for storage. But while this oil purification is taking place, the factory continues working on another valuable part of the fruit. The press cake that left the screw press earlier has now reached the fiber and nut separation section. Inside this area, the press cake is broken apart by specialized machines. The goal is to separate two key components hidden within the mass: palm fiber and palm nuts. The machines shake and sift the material, gradually separating the loose fibers from the hard nuts. The fibers themselves are not wasted. In fact, they play a very important role in the factory's energy system. Many palm oil factories use these fibers as fuel inside large industrial boilers. When burned, the fibers produce heat that generates steam. That steam is then used throughout the facility, especially in the sterilization stage that began the entire process. In this way, the factory partially powers itself using the natural byproducts of palm fruit processing. It is a remarkable example of industrial efficiency. Meanwhile, the palm nuts continue along another conveyor line. At first glance, the nuts look simple, small, round, and extremely hard. But inside each nut lies a valuable white kernel. And that kernel contains another type of oil, known as palm kernel oil. Extracting this kernel requires another powerful process. The nuts are first sent through drying systems to reduce their moisture content. This helps prepare them for cracking. Next, the dried nuts enter large mechanical nut crackers. These machines use rotating drums and pressure systems to break the hard shells without destroying the kernels inside. The sound of these machines can be sharp and loud. Each crack echoes through the processing room as shells split open. Once cracked, the mixture of shells and kernels passes through separation systems that sort them based on weight and airflow. The lighter shell fragments are blown away or collected for use as fuel. The heavier kernels are gathered and cleaned. Workers sometimes pause for a moment to observe the kernels flowing along conveyor belts. They are small, pale, and smooth, a quiet reminder that inside every fruit lies more than one valuable product. These kernels will later be sent to specialized mills where palm kernel oil will be extracted. But the main palm oil process continues elsewhere in the factory. Back in the clarification section, the purified crude palm oil is now ready to move toward the final stage within the mill. Storage. Large industrial pumps slowly push the warm oil through pipelines that stretch across the factory floor. The pipelines lead toward enormous storage tanks positioned near the edge of the facility. These tanks tower above the surrounding buildings like giant metal silos. Each tank is capable of holding thousands upon thousands of liters of crude palm oil. Before entering the tanks, the oil passes through final filtration systems to remove any remaining microscopic particles. Then the pumps push the oil upward into the tanks where it will rest under controlled temperature conditions. And yet, amidst the metal, the noise, and the heat, the process remains fundamentally connected to the simplest of natural origins. The humble palm fruit, hanging quietly on a tropical tree, waiting to begin its journey. This is the story behind the product. A story of human dedication, industrial precision, and natural resource transformed through centuries of knowledge and modern technology. Every day, the factory repeats the same process, producing thousands of tons of oil. But every drop is also a reminder of the complex journey that begins with the sun, rain, and soil of the plantation and ends in kitchens, factories, and homes around the world. If you have watched this video until now, you have seen the hidden world of modern palm oil production. You have seen how raw fruit transforms into valuable products, how nearly every part of the plant is used, and how humans and machines work together to meet global demand. And there is still more to explore. Across the world, factories like this operate silently, powering industries, feeding communities, and connecting nature to modern life. If you want to continue discovering the hidden stories behind the products you use every day, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and join us as we go behind the product to reveal the secrets of industries that shape our world. Remember, behind every product is a journey. And behind that journey are people, machines, and processes that often go unseen, but never unnoticed once you know their story. Stay curious, stay informed, and thank you for joining us behind the product.